and still I rise.
Hello.
And I rise to explain why I did what I did. And I did it with intentionality. The president indicated that he had a mandate. I said to the president, you do not have a mandate to cut Medicaid. I have constituents who need Medicaid. They will suffer and some will die if they don't get Medicaid. I heard the speaker when he said that I should cease. I did not, and I did not with intentionality.
They're debating his censure right now. Whether or not he does get censured. For me, the big tell will be how many Democrats vote yes. This is like, I am projecting like unimaginable spiritual decay upon every Democrat who votes yes. This, to me, this is even worse than the Rashida Tlaib thing, potentially, for Democrats voting against it. Because I know a bunch of Democrats are, like, led around by the short hairs by AIPAC. This is purely just a, like, how useless are you? Or not even how useless, how, like, much of a controlled opponent are you? How much controlled opposition?
It was not done out of a burst of emotion. I was emotional about it, but I did it with intentionality. I think that on some questions of conscience,
sorry, Fox
you
News
have to be willing to
autoplays.
suffer the consequences. And I have said I will. I will suffer whatever the consequences are, because I don't believe that in the richest country in the world, people should be without good health care. I stood up for my constituents then. I'm standing up for my constituents now. I am grateful to Mr. McGovern for what he has said. I'm grateful to those who have been standing with me. But I will tell you, I appreciate you. No anger. The officers who escorted me out, they were kind to me. I don't blame the speaker for anything. Friends, I would do it again. I have to be candid with you. I'm not trying to in some way insult you. This is a matter of principle. This is a matter of conscience. There are people suffering in this country because they don't have health care. I'll close with this. On some issues that are matters of conscience, it is better to stand alone than not stand at all. This is where I stand. I yield back.
Incredible king shit. The vote's going to be sometime in the next week, which means I'll be in New York when it happens. I basically, like, every Democrat who votes yes to the censure, this is like a primary, like, this is like a public admission from that Democrat that they are not only useless, but are actively hostile towards any kind of meaningful resistance. They are essentially like obstacles. They are as much obstacles as Republicans. Like, if someone breaks into your house and tries to stab you to death with a knife, so you reach for a knife to defend yourself, and your roommate runs up and grabs your wrist to keep you from grabbing that knife because they don't like how you would defend yourself in that fashion, your roommate is just as much a factor in your death as the person breaking in. Like, they are now complicit in your murder. They're an accomplice, exactly.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. Gentleman from Washington is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to yield as much time as he may consume. A gentleman
There's
from
an audio
Washington,
delay.
Mr. Baumgartner.
Gentleman from Washington is recognized.
That was a great speech. I love how unapologetic it was. There wasn't a moment of like, oh, I acted out of anger or something. It was just like, nope, he was wrong. He's lying. He's going to hurt people. I don't apologize.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to start by thanking my colleague from Washington State, Mr.
I was just taking a moment because we just talked about Chuck Schumer, who refused, by the way, to condone Al Green and the RCP favorability ratings, where Chuck Schumer is by far the least popular of Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Mike Johnson, Hakeem Jeffries, John Thune. I checked. No one else even comes close. Immensely unpopular. Unfavorability 45.1, which is basically every Republican. But the really shocking thing is that despite Chuck Schumer being a very prominent and well-known politician, only 28.3 favorable. Like, that's a lot of Democrats who either haven't heard of him because he's sauceless or don't care enough to weigh in. You know? That's pretty bad.
House. Donald Trump is not the Republican president. He's the American president. And what happened last night was beneath the dignity of the House and beneath the dignity of the American people. And I say that as someone who is new to this body. I'd also like to point out how it was perceived and how it may have been interpreted.
Oh, speaking of Ash Wednesday, by the way, guess who guess who's an internet tradcath for epic Groyper points? Guess who converted to Catholicism to return with a V epically. Literally, come on, it's the lowest bar you could have met. You're so fake. He put his ash right here around his eyelids. You can't see it. Yeah, he could have just bought fake ash, man. Like, it's the one thing. He's a joke for most Catholics. I mean, he's essentially been directly condemned by the Pope. Mind you, American tradcaths don't care about the Pope at all. They think the Pope is woke and gay. They're not actually religious. They just like Catholicism as a kind of unifying cultural signifier that signals that interest in things like white supremacy and pedophilia. Which, of course, J.D. Vance, presumably massive fans of both, wouldn't know, haven't asked the guy. Yeah, he will not be allowed into the kingdom of heaven. This isn't him. I've seen nothing but pictures of him for like a week. He's much fatter and has bulging eyeballs. No ashes on forehead.
As you know, each member of the House receives a guest ticket, and I decided to give my guest ticket, the first one that I would have for this kind of occasion, to a teacher from Eastern Washington, with the goal of inspiring an interest in civics and public service in that next generation of young people. In fact, we ran a competition for students to nominate their teacher. And the winning teacher that came had never been to Washington, D.C. before, had never been to the halls of Congress, and was so excited that she was here to watch this. And I have no idea what her political beliefs were. No idea whether she's Republican or Democrat or independent.
This is my favorite edit of Vance. I like this one a lot, too. I think that overall my favorites have to be like an aggregate of his like pastry doughboy look. But this one, I do quite like this one. This one's really good because it captures a very specific energy that you know he has burning in his heart. He just can't show it.
He was just excited to be here as part of this experiment in democracy that we have, and all of her students were watching from home. And, you know, while it can be regrettable when, and it happens on both sides, when people have a spontaneous outburst of emotion and maybe say something they should, you know, what I saw and what I worry about what her students saw last night was a continued premeditated attack, and some might even say the appearance of a violent and threatening action.
Oh my God. Classic. You pussies.
With the cane. And so that may have not been the intent, but I worry that those students and what I saw as I watched was a scene that was beneath the dignity of this House, beneath the dignity of the American people, and certainly beneath the dignity of our president. And so at some point, America...
should this not like be an indicator enough that what Al Green did was correct? Look at this bitch quivering. Can you imagine if the entire Democratic Party was aligned behind Al Green? Like if they had any balls whatsoever? If they all left after him? And now they were going to the media being like, this bitch of a president, this coward, This weakling Trump, he gets yelled at by an old man, and this free speech loving president tosses him out. Like, and this is the kind of like indignant, you know, whiny, oh, you violated. Republicans love to fall back on this when they're threatened, which is this like disingenuous, you violated the procedure, which of course it's disingenuous. They're literally like the government to death, you know? But they love to fall back on it. And Democrats can't criticize them for it because Democrats love it even more than they do. Except for them, it's sincere.
Cannot continue on this slide towards continual partisan fighting and all of the divisiveness.
That shit-fitted tie, too. Actually, I don't mind the tie in the shirt. I mean, the tie is a little bit lopsided, but that just happens, you know? I like that the Oxford cloth button-down collar actually has a bit of a roll to it, unlike RFK's. The tie's uninspired. I don't like the color. I do like the diagonal stripes, though. That's a classic tie pattern.
We all need to do better, including myself. I think every
man, the Alpha Industries bomber is only $200. My wallet is crying. Hobo God, get it? Vintage. You could. Okay, no. I'm going to interrupt the segment for this. Okay, hold on 1 second. eBay, U.S. military vintage bomber jacket. I'm seeing shit here for like $50. They made millions of these, man. They made millions of these. Learn how to look through the tags, you know? You can find, look, vintage 80s, U.S. military, 45p Flyers bomber jacket, Alpha Industries, pre-owned, $35. Lamau, my bad, didn't mean to derail. I'm just saying. When it comes to military clothing, if you're buying new, I'm not saying it's bad, support the brands, but you should understand, like, they made millions of these for soldiers.
Every member of this body. So let's join together on this. Let's join together and realize that this episode was beneath the dignity of what the American people expect from Congress. And let's have this be a new beginning in civility from a low point that this body can rise and behave in the manner I think all of the people, the way that all the American people wanted to behave, and certainly those high school students that were watching from home, so excited that their teacher was here to experience this special moment.
Unimaginably pussy shit, like incomprehensibly pussy shit. The Democrats should jump on this. I know they're not going to.